Jesus Christ. Ooh, hey guys. Thank you for tuning in and staying with me. This is our last conversation for today. Whew. I feel like I've been on a whole marathon today. But I need to shout out this entire team at the Ladies of Hope Ministries: Carlene, Sally Davis, Kate, Jared, Andrea, Lenore and Netta, Trisha, with all of the sisters from Faces of Women in Prison, our great second panel of speakers. This has been incredible. Yes. So it has been a whole day. And I feel like if I was outside, I don't know if I would have been really doing all of this, but it's all right because we got it done. I know that there were sleepless nights. Hey, Van, I see Van is here. I'm going to join him because I am sure he has something else to do. But he came on to be here with me for a moment. So, hey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. Happy to see your beautiful, gorgeous self.
Thank
Big day
you.
for you. Big day for the whole movement. Welcome home 5 years later. Look at all you've done.
It is something, isn't it?
Look at
I'm
all you've
just
done.
like, oh man, it's been a day, but I am so grateful that you were able to find some time to get on a call with me and to just like wrap up everything tonight. And so this whole day and moving from this day forward is about rewriting her story. And like I was saying, today's my 5-year anniversary home. And so just birthing the Ladies of Hope Ministries while incarcerated and coming home and being able to start to do the work in the movement. But it was working with you and Jessica and Aaron and Lewis and Alex and Olivia and everybody over at Cut 50 and Dream Corps, Nisha and everyone that really empowered me in a moment where there was a shift happening within the movement, and the movement specifically around women and girls. And the opportunity, the community, and the investment that you made in me. And I thank you for being someone that I can talk to, that despite what it is, no matter what time it is, you've always been there. I mean, and when I saw you at my dad's funeral, now I'm getting teary-eyed as the day is coming. It allowed me to know that I had a great friend in you.
Absolutely.
And so, people see us and they hear you say my name or hear me say your name, and we don't get to talk as often as I would like because, the world is what the world is, but you always come through. And I've learned so much from you. And I thank you.
We learned so much. We learned so much from you, and it's such a blessing when you came home. And you could have done any number of things, coming back, given your many gifts, given your connections, given your beauty, given your genius, given all the different things. And for you to have decided to just be of service. And also, quiet as it's kept, a lot of our biggest successes, you were the architect of behind the scenes. Miss Alice Johnson became one of the great symbols of justice in the world. But her voice was first heard by a video that you helped to produce and to create. And then Kim Kardashian and other people got involved, and then Donald Trump, and suddenly, but you have this ability to be in front of the scenes and behind the scenes, and to bring that strength and that beauty and that clarity in both roles. That's very hard to do. And so, it was a blessing for the Dream Corps, and kept get a chance to work with you, and to continue working with you, as you continue doing things. And I also think that tipping point you're describing, where it was kind of always seen as the brothers, the brothers behind bars, the brothers behind bars. What about the brothers behind bars? And the sisters were being left out,
Yeah.
just systematically. And without much fanfare, you just kind of corrected that. You know what I mean? It's like now when people, they talk about brothers and sisters behind bars, your name, Shaka Senghor's name comes up and your name comes up. And it's just, I don't know how you work that magic, but you're just a special human being, a magical person. And we're just lucky to have you.
Well, I thank you. I thank you so much. I give that skill to my dad and God. My father has that finesse. My humor comes from my mom, but I think
I have your father's picture up. I wish I was up on the third floor. I have your father's picture on my altar on the third floor.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, I wish I had gotten a chance to really spend time with him, but just to be in your presence and your witness for him, so many other witness for him at his homecoming. I said, okay, this is a brother I need to have in my life. And when I'm doing my spiritual stuff, I want to know he can come in whenever he wants to. let me get.
Well, he's gonna come. So it's only a matter of time. He's coming.
Yeah, I love it.
So that means so much. And so, just to have just like a little conversation with you, this is something we always do all the time.
Yeah.
But just talking a little bit more about like women and girls.
Yeah.
And why you have seen over the many, many years of the work that you've doing, why we've been left out the conversation, but why it's so incredibly important to continue to give opportunities and platforms where women can use their voices directly, because how we saw that helped to change the narrative and help really, as we work together with dignity, and how that was an entire movement because of the sisters who actually lived the experience, were able to work with your skilled team to write the legislation, learn how to write legislation, learn what it means to lobby and be advocates. And so can you talk a little bit about that?
We have to be as sophisticated as the system we're trying to change. When you're really trying to make true change, it takes a lot of heart and a lot of smarts. And both the heart part and the smart part, if you're just being objective, would lead you to putting women at the front. First of all, for people in the Republican Party who have now begun to come around to this issue, but many of them would have never made it their number one, number two, not even the top 10. They might understand from a liberty perspective, from a Christian, charity perspective. But when you say mothers, when you say women are being brutalized, or being mistreated, or being torn from their children, that rings a different chord, both for Democrats and for Republicans. So just from a tactical point of view, why would you not put forward your strongest case? Why would you not put forward the most resonant messengers? Why would you not put forward the people who can translate, motherhood is universal. Babies crying, that's universal. And so just from a smart way, it was just dumb the whole time to sideline female voices. And then from a heart place, the suffering that women have been going through, it has a whole different character when you're talking about everything from being forced to be shackled, giving birth, to sexual abuse, to being torn away from children, to all the things that women have gone through. How can you ignore that pain? So when you put the smart and the heart together, that's why the Dignity for Incarcerated Women movement that you were so critical to, but Cup 50 was so critical to, and remains so critical to, played an uncelebrated role in creating the entire left-right Democrat-Republican alliance. The entire left-right alliance has now resulted in dozens of bills and executive orders and that kind of stuff. Was really built on that fulcrum, that the strength of the women's voices that were able to bring. Mama can bring everybody to the table. You know what I mean? And that's what happened. And so I think there was so much noise about oh, working with Trump, working with Republicans, working with Newt Gingrich, working with Coke industry, etc., that people miss that miracle. They were
Mm-hmm.
so concerned about the optics, and they were so fearful
Mm-hmm.
about, well, is this going to mean that, you know, the Republicans are empowered over us, so that, you know, there's going to be something negative consequences. But I think people miss the miracle of seeing people who don't agree with each other, people who do vote against each other, people who do argue on every other issue, fall into silence and into unity on this issue, led by women. And I hope that as the years go on and people look back on this time with more sobriety, that you and some of the other sisters who really took some abuse, some criticism from quote unquote our folks, there'll be a reassessment. You
Yeah.
know, to say, you know, but for Topeka Sand being willing to go into the White House, but for Topeka Sand being willing to sit next to a Jared Kushner and tell her truth and make the entire administration stand up and applaud her. You're the only one that got a standing ovation in that whole process, in that building, because you spoke a truth that had not been spoken in those walls for a long time. And so, and the ripple effects of that, we're still dealing with in a positive way. And so we have to be as sophisticated as a system we're trying to change. And sometimes that means doing stuff that seems not obvious. Why are they
Right.
doing that? Why is she saying that? Why is she going there? What's she doing? What's she about? You know, at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. And at the end of the day, there are about, I think, 40% of all women behind bars in the United States now have rights that they did not have before you started with dignity for incarcerated women. So not quite half, but almost half of all the women who are locked up now have rights and privileges and protections that they did not have.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks for itself. At the end of the day, that speaks for itself.
Thank you. And I mean, though, you know, there are many people out there that believe, why are we trying to change prison conditions when we're trying to end incarceration, right? But many of us say that you cannot do one without the other. There's no way that I can think about closing a prison when I know all of the millions of people that I left behind and what type of conditions that they're actually living in, right? So, like, why would I want to just say, you know what, I'm not going to work on making sure that women have personal hygiene products at no cost to them. I'm not going to work on the fact that women are being shackled during child labor. I'm not going to work on the fact that women are being put in solitary confinement just because they're pregnant. I'm not going to work on the fact that there's mold and asbestos and different things that are happening within prisons, that women are being raped in prisons and abused in prisons, while I think it's more important to abolish prisons. No, you have to do both. There are people who are here who want to do different things, right? Like, I think you have a whole abolition movement, and I think they're important. I
Yes.
think you have people who want to change conditions of confinement, and I think that's important. I think that people need to find their tribe and work on the issues, but ultimately we want to make sure that we are giving our people the opportunities that they need while we're releasing them and decarcerating and getting people out, that we're providing them the resources and things that they need in the community, and parole and probation is not one of them either.
You have to be a real simple idiot to. I mean, I mean, sometimes you have to speak grown folk talk. You have to be a real simple idiot not to understand what you do. You have to be real basic and simple and stupid not to understand what you just said. First of all, we're so good at pulling the ladder up behind us.
Hmm.
Nobody starts off at the highest level of consciousness and these radical ideas. Everybody starts off saying, hey, that seems like that's not right. And then, well, now I learn more, and now I learn more. You want to keep the ladder from the bottom to the top stable so people can grow or come back to their comfort level and find their place. You don't want to pull the ladder up behind you. If everybody has to start where you stopped, you have a small movement.
That's right.
If everybody has to start where you stopped, you have a very small movement. And so it's the humanization, it's the dehumanization. Criminalization is the opposite of humanization.
Hmm.
And humanization is the opposite of criminalization. And so the process you got to take people through is to rehumanize in people's own minds they have been told are less than. And wherever you want to start on that, some people might be start an abstract intellectual conversation about prison abolition. A lot of people need to talk to a human being, help somebody, make a connection, go do some literacy program or do something like that. Everybody needs to be able to come in. We need to be a house with many doors.
That's right.
A house with many doors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the fact that anybody who's touching any part of this issue should ever feel like they have to defend themselves is really sad. And I will say this, which I don't say often, but I'll say it today because it's a celebration day. I am not a prison abolitionist because there are some people who I want to see in prison. Like, I don't know, Dick Cheney. There's a lot of people who, you know, have done stuff I'm mad about. People feel the earth was, you know, these big corporations. There's some people who I might need at least one little jail somewhere to put them in. So I'm not a prison abolitionist, but I'm a prison abolitioner. Working with the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, our Books Not Bars campaign, we closed 5 abusive prisons for young people. We stopped them from building a super jail for kids. So I can point to 5 prisons that are closed and 1 that was never built based on my work. So is it better for me to be a prison abolitioner who's actually abolished prisons, even though I don't believe in the theology of it? Or is it better for me to be a theological, ideological zealot about an issue and I have no victory? Now, that's the question. At what point do we have a movement where results matter more than rhetoric? At what point do you have a movement where impact matters more than image? At
That's
what
real.
point do we have a movement where outcomes matter more than outrage? Because when that becomes the movement, when outcomes matter more than outrage, when rhetoric matters less than results, okay, when image is not as important as impact, we're going to free a whole lot of people. And the people who we don't free are going to have a better chance of staying out when they get out because they're going to have a better experience. And that is going to be a great day. And you have been consistent. You have never put anybody down for their work. Whatever part of this work they've touched, you have blessed them, you celebrated them, you hugged them, you lifted them up. And you've also had a very wide range.
You're frozen, Van. Well, Van is frozen on my end. I don't know if you all can hear him, but I can't hear him. Hey. Okay, Van just left. He'll come right back. So while he's going to request again, I'm going to ask everybody to follow at the LOHM and text LOHM 5520 to the number 41444. Van, whenever you can, just send another request so that I can add you back. I see that you're back. Okay, there you are.
Hello.
Okay.
They tried to cut me off. I was making too much sense.
Yeah, so go ahead. Finish telling me about my eyes. What were you saying?
Exactly. But I just want to say that one thing I admire about you is that no matter, some people understand and celebrate, some people don't understand and ask questions. You treat everybody good. Never get pulled into a bunch of nonsense. I never see you smashing on people. You just put the work first, put God first. You'll continue to help people and support people. And I think that that's a very important thing that doesn't get appreciated enough. You know, we could be up here fist fighting all day long on social media, or we can get some work done.
Right.
And you get the work done.
Well, I appreciate you. And, you know, again, it's because of your support and Jessica and everyone. You know, I always laugh and I say, you know, in this work, it's hard. It's heavy work. Having to live your experience, and whatever that experience is difficult to continue to talk about the same thing over and over again, to try to get more people to understand when you think everybody should understand, because the amount of people that are actually impacted by this thing now, right? But like family, you fuss. And you fuss and then you make up. And there's, you know, there's that graciousness and understanding the emotional intelligence and maturity that actually comes with doing this work. and understanding how incredibly important it is to listen. You know, I've learned so much from everyone, and I don't agree with the way everyone approaches their work but that's their work. And they have a right to do that, because who am I to say that God didn't call them to move in this world in that capacity? That's not my right. All I know is what God has called me to do. And I just have to move in that right and move with whom I feel is aligned with the same things that I want to do or am doing. And so, you know, when I think about everything that you said, which is why, you know, everyone is having kind of a minute in in conversations that we have had, that just thinking about, you know, from that system of incarceration and changing those conditions to the work that you're doing now and leading a movement around reform. And, you know, what's happening specifically right now with COVID and in prisons and the conditions and how people are still getting violated when they don't even have a place to report. So if you can talk a little bit about that and how we can make sure that we're taking care of our loved ones during these times and inside of our prisons and jails. And again, how women are not seeing relief, even in some of these compassion release and different opportunities for coming home.
Well, this virus is trying to teach us something. Whenever a plague comes, I don't call it a pandemic, I call it a plague. So that's what they refer to these situations in the Bible. They're a plague. Whenever a plague comes, there's a lesson in it for the people. And this virus is trying to teach us about wellness and oneness. Wellness and oneness. The reason this virus is able to jump on the Black community and brown communities and poor communities, it's the pandemic jumping on top of a bunch of existing epidemics that we're willing to live with. We're willing to live with an epidemic of poverty and bad jobs and no health care for millions of people. We're willing to live with epidemics of hypertension, diabetes, asthma, and other ailments that disproportionately have been ravaging Black communities, Native American communities, Latino communities. Not just sick people, but sick systems.
That's right.
We're willing to live with. Because why? You can have a lack of wellness because there's a lack of oneness. That's them. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, everybody that's not me is just an app with feet under it, because I'm just going to live in my gated community. I'm going to live in my bubble. I'm going to poke my little phone, and then products are going to magically appear. Service is going to magically be done. And I never have to ask the question, does the person on the other side of the app have the ability to see a doctor? Are they paid properly? Are they, if they have a loved one that gets sick, if they go and check on their mother, their baby? I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to sit here and poke on my little device and be happy. But what nobody wanted to admit was rich folks have been socially isolating for a long time. They live in gated communities, big mansions with one person in there. They're already socially isolated. And it was their social isolation that allowed all this other pain to accumulate in the system. Now here comes this virus. The virus didn't come first. All kind of prophets came first, trying to tell us to be good to each other, trying to tell us that we should be one. And you going back to Moses, but fine, you don't want to deal with that. In this era, you had Oprah. In this era, you had a Iyanla Vanzant. In this era, you had Michelle Obama and her husband. In this era, you had Big Bird. In this era, you had Mr. Rogers. I mean, how many prophets came to tell you that we're all supposed to be one and treat each other right? All the prophets were ignored. And so now comes this virus. It's going to make you now deal with the fact that we're all one. Because this virus goes from body to body to body with no discrimination of race or who you voted for, how much money you have. You have to build a movement that can go from heart to heart to heart with the same velocity and the same no discrimination. And so when you say, well, Van, you know, I'm worried about my own health. I'm worried about my own toilet paper. I'm worried about my own this, my own that. I don't have time to talk about people behind bars. This virus is going to force you to deal with it because people behind bars, the biggest prison population in the world here, U.S., 2.2, 2.4 million people. Please understand, 7,000 jails and prisons. Please understand, prisons are now the new New York. Prisons are the new New York, and they're everywhere because the virus is moving so rapidly through those populations. And so we have to just rationally, again, not just smart,
Right.
data driven. Where are the hot spots? Hot spots are communities of color, jails, prisons, homeless shelters, women's shelters, housing projects, where we are. You can't defeat the plague in your gated community if you don't defeat the plague over here, because it will come back again and come back again and come back again. So since you didn't want to listen to Big Bird, and you didn't want to listen to Grover and them, and you didn't want to listen to Michelle Obama, you didn't want to listen, you know what I mean? Then you're going to listen now. So we have to put the maximum attention on people behind bars. They're the most vulnerable. They will also super accelerate the virus for others. As the guards come in and out, they bring the virus in and out. And that puts everybody at risk. Last thing I'll say is this: math matters. 2.2 million people. The virus moves 5 to 15 times faster through that population than through a normal population. That means if all those people get sick, you say, I don't care about them. Okay, fine, don't care about them. If they all get sick 15 times faster than you, they will overflow the hospitals and knock out the entire healthcare system, and then you can't go to the doctor. So
great point.
You can move now with compassion, or you won't be able to move later with fear. So this is what this virus is trying to teach us, and it's a terrible logic to a plague, because it's always the poor and innocent who suffer the most, to try to teach a lesson to the people who are in power. It's a terrible logic to a plague. That's why we have to revere our prophets, and that's why we have to try and tell the truth before these calamities happen, no matter what anybody. And so, of course, women are bearing the brunt, as the nurses, as the so-called essential workers, standing in these grocery stores, being exposed to mega doses of virus to make sure that other people can have some lettuce to bring home to their. Of course, are suffering. I never understand the logic of a plague. Even as a child, I couldn't understand it. But a terrible logic that when the powers and principalities do not listen to the prophets, calamities befall the people, and there's a chance for a next normal. There's a chance for us to author a next normal that's based on the lessons. You do not learn these lessons, this virus will be here forever, or there'll be 12 more. If we learn the lessons, and we say, listen, people, we should be very hesitant to take somebody's liberty and put them in a prison, because in the age of the virus, you could be taking their life too. Any arrest in the age of the virus could be a death sentence. So let's be careful about how we deal with those liberties, because you could be dealing with somebody's life at the same time. That should not sound radical to anybody anymore. When they say everybody who's sick should be able to see a doctor, that sounded radical 3 months ago. That don't sound radical today. When we say if you have a loved one that's sick at home, you should be able to take care of that loved one. Family leave. That sounded radical 3 months ago. It doesn't sound radical. See, this virus is making the case that the people have been making. When you say somebody who's working should make $15 an hour, you couldn't pay these rich folk to go stand in these grocery stores for $15 an hour or $150 an hour. So all of the cries of the people for fair wages, for relief from this incarceration industry, for family leave, you go down the line. All these things that sound so radical 3 months ago, and the Democrats, were falling over themselves to stop those ideas 3 months ago. And nobody with those ideas could get the nomination 3 months ago. They sound like common sense today. And so breakdowns can become breakthroughs if you use them right. And we have to make sure that we use the lessons of this virus to have a better outcome than we had going into it.
Absolutely. But do you think that, all right, they say that by the 15th of this month, they're going to be opening the country back up, right? We won't no longer be on mandatory house arrest is what I call it. But we'll be able to get back outside in the community. Do you think people are going to go back to the idea of, oh my God, I got to hurry up and get my life back together. I have so much business I need to handle. Or are people going to say, this is what I learned during this time? To your point, we need to have oneness. We need to begin to continue to build community, and we need to help people from vulnerable populations. Do you think that people are going to utilize the lessons that they learned during this time, if they learned, or going back to what the world once was, or what their world was, which would then put us right back into the same situation that we've always been in, or maybe even worse?
It's in our hands. It's in our hands. People don't know what to do. Some people may never come out the house again. Just scared.
That's real.
You know, the future remains to be authored. That's the thing about a calamity like this, is it throws everything up in the air. It can come back down in a good place or a bad place. It's up to us. All I know is that we have to speak up. The dividers and the haters of the world in this century, for some reason, are still so confident.
Mm-hmm.
They're so loud. ISIS, chopping folks' heads off.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ashamed of that. They put it on the internet. They're proud of that. I mean, you go through all these hateful groups. They're so proud to be hateful, so proud to be divisive. And then you turn your face to find the people who believe in love and hope and solidarity. And you look high and low because we're so shy and we're so insecure or whatever that we won't speak boldly what we know to be true.
That's right.
And so it depends on what the truth tellers decide to do. It depends on what the light weavers decide to do. It depends on, how courageous we're willing to be. That will help determine the outcome. But it's not written. And in this century, we're either going to have a new dark ages or a new enlightenment. That's as simple as that. There's no middle ground. All this technology and all this stuff is either going to create a blighted world with less freedom, of more fear, more war, or it's going to lead to a more ecologically wise, spiritually developed, socially mature human civilization. And everybody has a responsibility to pick a side, even in yourself. Which part of yourself? The scared part or the courageous? The fearful part or the faithful part? Which part of yourself are you going to feed and develop, live with, let alone these social forces? But that's why God sent us to our rooms. Everybody go to your room, sit down, and think about what you did, and think about what you didn't do.
You're right.
And so you have the whole human species. We all had to go to our room. When these doors open up, and I hope that they open up into a safer environment, but it doesn't look like it. We may be going back out into more virus that come back in. Whenever these doors open up, there's a potential for new beings to walk out. What we do now, our prayers now, our reflection now, our meditation now, what we choose to read, watch, and listen to now, our diet now, our choices now. It's like a caterpillar in a cocoon. When the door opens, we should be unrecognizable in our beauty. We should be unrecognizable in our strength. We should be unrecognizable in our transformation. So that all of these people who have died, who look like me and you, did not die in vain.
Whew, that was a whole word. I don't even know how to, I just want to process that, right? I know Carlene, who helped to really produce everything, this event for us, or for me, was very intentional on exactly what you're saying, right? With meditation, with a vegan cooking class, with introducing like a dance therapy class with banana skirt, like doing all of these different things that would help for our community specifically to understand that we need to begin to really practice self-wellness so that we can then become one within ourselves first,
Mm-hmm.
before we are able then to, as you said, love our neighbor, love our brother, love our cousin, love whomever. And so I think in this next season, to your point, it is an individual choice as into which way they're gonna roll. I'm gonna roll in faith. That's been doing pretty good for me. Um, and I'm hopeful, which is the Ladies of Hope Ministries. That's where the name comes from. So, you know, I feel that we are going to be able to continue to do great things. You know, I'm saddened by all of the pain and things that people are suffering during this time, but also I am a bit optimistic about how this can help yet again bring communities together, stronger than ever before, and understanding like this, like incarceration, that, you know, it at this particular time and what's happening in this country now is that it's impacting each and every one of us. And so how do we no longer say it's their issue, that it is our issue? How do we stop marginalizing and criminalizing people for poverty? And how can we stop hatred of things that we don't know, hatred of people based on their race, hatred of people based on their religion, their sex, just hate. And try to learn, right? I think opportunities to communicate with you know, brilliance and understanding, like, hey, wait a minute, you can learn, you know, and who you learn from is anyone. You know, I remember being at a point where if a person didn't speak proper English, I couldn't hear them, like, at all. You know, when a person's like, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying, because da-da-da-da, and I'm like, what? You know, but when I began to stop looking at that and really start listening, some of the most brilliant people that I've ever learned from, and that have helped to guide me even in my life and journey, were those who did not have maybe what they call the King's English, right? So I think that us being more patient with one another and stop judging each other is going to help us to continue to save each other.
Well, look, I hope that people will continue to gather around you and support you. You know, world-class leadership is rare in any field, whatever field it is, but let alone the field to help the least of these. You know, once they label us, you know, with these different titles and these dehumanizing, you know, terms, and they put us through these negative experiences, people in our community come back out, need world-class leadership for healing, world-class leadership for second chances, for renewal, for rebirth, for redemption, and also just for justice. And, you know, you are a world-class leader, and it's just an honor to get a chance to work with you. And I hope that the ministry that you are leading, Ladies of Hope, is blessed by everybody watching, everybody who has a chance to do something positive for you. And those of us at the Reform Alliance and Cut 50 and Dream Corps, you know, we are honored. You know, it's a blessing. And we throw, as you know, we throw them up all the time, because when that name lands, it lands like solid gold. You don't never have to worry about throwing your name up. So thank you. Congratulations on being home 5 years. You know, hope you're 50 more years. Do what you're doing, or 500 more. We need
I don't know about that. Out of here.
Exactly.
I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for always being there for me. I'm so incredibly grateful for you.
And vice versa. Vice versa.
And we'll talk soon. So thank you. Love you.
Right. Love you
All
too.
right, good night.
Goodbye.
Yep.
Good.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining in. I appreciate each and every one of you. This has been an incredible day. I am so grateful. I am so humbled. I am so loved. And hadn't I known that before, I know that more now today than ever before. On Thursday, we will be joining Cut 50 and a panel of powerful women to do an extension of grace, gratitude, grace, and giving. We'll be talking to all of the women who passed legislation around dignity for incarceration, over 20 women, Miss Alice Marie Johnson, Amy Pova, Jessica Jackson, Erin Haney, and as I said, so many women who have been engaged in this work and passing legislation to help with our sisters who we all left behind. And so please stay tuned to that. That'll be live on Cut 50's Facebook page. Again, Giving Tuesday is not over. Please text to what I pinned down and follow at the LOHM. You can text LOHM 5520 to the number 41444. No amount is too small, $5 since we're in, or 5,000 or 50 or 500, whatever. But we're working in fives today. So that's where I'm at with it. But I am so incredibly grateful yet again to my entire team and to all of my loved ones and all of the people out here who have been supporting me and the organization. Please stay tuned. We are announcing some new incredible programs that are going to help women entrepreneurs, new partnerships that LOHM is doing. And I'm just so excited to be able to share these blessings. As the blessings come into me, share them with the rest of the world. Because we pay it forward, if that's what you want to call it. You know, blessings upon blessings is what I feel. Andy, I see you. Thank you so much for blessings. But again, I'm going to end today by just, not today, I'm going to end my live marathon by saying I appreciate each and every one of you for having just a small snapshot of the greatness that I've been blessed with and that I'm blessed with every single day. Again, the work that I do would not be afforded from me if it not been from you and those of us who help with just making sure that we're empowering each other and our sisters through this work. Again, it is incredible strength to be able to share your story of any kind. But when you've lived in a dark place and to be able to share that with the world without judgment and understanding that your truth is your truth and rewriting her story is just about that. And as I begin to continue to move on my next journey, I'm excited about the things that God is rewriting in my life and even more excited to begin to share that. So God bless you. Happy May 5th. And please, please, please text LOHM 5520 to the number 41444. God bless you.
Save it.